So let's talk about the fact that the single Lemonade drops tomorrow. Well, it'll drop sooner for the people in the UK because by the time it drops in the UK, I think it might still technically be the 29th here. Anyway, double check the time zones. So, this thing about fruit. All right. What do Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson have in common? Well, more than a decade of intertwined history, in fact, almost a decade and a half and pushing, a fandom that never stops connecting dots, and apparently fruit. Harry gave us kiwi, sherry, and watermelon sugar. Now Louis is dropping a new single called Lemonade. So the question is, are these fruit codes just quirky song titles, or are they part of a larger shared language? Well, let's dive into the Easter eggs. So fruit symbolism has been baked into Harry's artistry from the start of his solo career. His lyrics, visuals, and even merch play with fruit as metaphors for intimacy, playfulness, and sensory detail. Louis, until now, avoided leaning into the fruit coated motif, which is why lemonade feels like such a moment, a citrus entry into a canon already rich with fruit coated meaning. So, Harry's fruit canon, let's do the overview. So, Kiwi in 2017, explosive, messy, chaotic attraction. Cherry in 2019, nostalgia, heartbreak, personal vulnerability. Watermelon Sugar 2019, euphoric, sensual joy of the moment. Other Easter eggs, strawberries, peaches, oranges often appear in his visuals. So for Harry, fruit equals mood. Each fruit paints a flavor of experience coded into song. Now let's introduce Lemonade and the track from Louis that's dropping soon and what we know. So once again, Louis' team is confirmed. A new single titled Lemonade drops on September 30th. The physical CD, including a bonus track called Sleepwalking, which is a demo track. That is all that's confirmed. No official word yet on whether the album will be called Lemonade. But fandom chatter treats the single as part of a bigger symbolic step, Louis' own entry into fruit-coated territory. So why does lemonade matter again? Well, lemons stand out because they're different from berries and melons. They're tart, sharp, refreshing, and associated with resilience. When life gives you lemons, make lemonade, saying goes. Fans interpret this as Louis signaling this era will be rawer. Oh my God, I can't pronounce that. Braver and more honest. Unlike Harry's fruit, which often codes intimacy, lemonade might code endurance and clarity. All right, so like in the hunting for the Easter eggs and what things mean and clues and whatnot, let's look at Easter egg number one, the color yellow. The color yellow has long been linked to Louis in fan edits and stylings. Posters, teasers, and mood boards around lemonade lean into bright citrus tones. Harry's fine line aesthetic leaned on pinks and oranges, but yellow was always lurking, like the bold yellow sweater in performances or the yellow set pieces fans linked to Larry moments. For fans, Lemonade revives this yellow coated thread. Okay, Easter egg 2 is the recipe metaphor. Larry fandom has been buzzing about the recipe. The lemonade theory was described as a recipe, ingredients like emojis, dates, and hints mixed into a narrative. That word, recipe, pairs beautifully with lemonade itself. Could Louis be playing with the idea of sharing his own recipe? A handmade sound, his blend of sour and sweet, distinct from Harry's, but still fruit coated. Easter egg 3 fruit as dialogue. Harry's fruit songs often carry double meanings. Cherry was but an X, watermelon sugar was about sensory love, kiwi about chaos, and fans wonder is lemonade Louis' reply track? If Harry's fruit coated pleasure, maybe Louis' citrus codes healing. If Harry's songs lean into indulgence, Louis' single leans into craft and resilience. Fans frame this as a dialogue, not proof of Larry, but a symbolic parallel that keeps both discographies in conversation. Easter egg 4 fan predictions that kind of came true. So, a month before the official announcement, fans theorized Louis' next project would tie into lemons. They noticed emojis, date coincidences, and September 30th Lemon Day connection. Now, with a single called Lemonade, these predictions feel validated. Theories turning into reality reinforce the idea that fruit codes aren't random, they're deliberate motifs. Easter egg 5 Larry theories and lemonade. In Larry fandom, fruit is practically sacred text. Harry's fruits have been decoded as intimate clues, and now Louis' lemonade feels like a missing puzzle piece. Some fans see it as symbolic alignment, both artists using fruit imagery across different eras. Others caution it might just be coincidence, but either way, lemonade adds fuel to Larry interpretations. Okay, risks and debates that have like surfaced in the fandom chatter so far. So, not every fan is thrilled. Critics note that Beyonce's Lemonade is iconic and refusing the title risks comparison. Others argue that Lemonade as a title for an album name might not stick. It could just remain a single. But even skeptics admit, as a single, it has already reshaped fan discourse. Lemonade proves that fruit coated motifs aren't just Harry's domain. Okay, so far, how do we sum up these recent events as we prepare for his release debut, Lemonade, tomorrow? So, what does Lemonade mean? Well, it's officially Louis' new single, yay, but it's also a cultural symbol of resilience, a fandom prophecy, fulfilled, and of the fruit coated dialogue fans have been reading between Harry and Louis for years. So, whether the full album carries the same name or not, Lemonade has already cemented itself as an Easter egg in the Larry Styles and mythology. So, what do you all think? Is Lemonade just Louis' new single? Or is it the start of a fruit coated conversation with Harry's entire discography? Drop your thoughts in the comments. So, another argument which always surfaces, and this has been going on at least since the summer. Well, when did I become a Larry? Oh my God, it's almost my 1 year anniversary of becoming a Larry, which was like November, December 2024. Wow. Okay, so since since I started my old channel, which was started on Harry's birthday, um, the that was February 1st of this year. So I've from the very beginning had begun seeing when I kind of fell down the rabbit hole and went to Reddit and all that. I'd seen a lot of the references about the use of what they call queer baiting or Larry baiting, and this tactic by and I've seen two camps. There's the camp that says both of them are doing it, Harry and Louis, and then there's a camp that says really it's more Louis that's doing it, and it's using Larry when it's convenient. And I did a whole video on it on the old channel. So some people will naturally come up and argue that calling it Lemonade was Louis trying to recapture to increase market cap with the song because of the Larry universe getting all excited about it. I don't think that that's entirely true. I think, like with anything, naming a single, naming an album, naming a tour, anything, there's a lot of thought that goes into it because in the age of social media, you want something that's going to go viral, that's going to catch on. And who wouldn't leverage existing marketing points, right? However, I keep saying this, it's only like an inside knowledge to the Larrys. So the Larrys are a huge crowd. But then there's just as many Zarys, there's just as many Hueys, there's just as many Ziums. And I don't necessarily think that it's a large enough contingency. It's not reached critical mass yet. So it's an inside marketing thing. But if anything, these people are going to buy it anyway. So I don't see how it's really like Larry baiting because these people are going to buy it, whether you bait or not. They're going to buy it, and even if it's not strategically named because you're trying to play off this whole like Harry and the fruit thing, people will think that anyway. So it just literally doesn't matter what you do. So the Larry baiting. If someone ran the numbers, it wouldn't necessarily translate to a significant increase in profits, like gross profit, gross sales, and then net profit. If anything, it fuels the conversation in like Reddit and Discord and all the places, and all the spaces where we have Larry's. But the thing is, those spaces are almost silos because the general One Direction fandom seems almost separate to Larry. Like they know of each other, but even then, like the general One Direction fandom, they're just going to buy it. Or the people that are truly just Harrys who never knew him in the boy band, and the people that are truly Louis that never knew him in the boy band, they'll buy it anyway. So really, there's not much leveraging point to Larry Bait. And if anything, the Larry Bait, because of how much the canon archives, like there's so if you go to the Reddit, there's just so much glossaries and all that. In order to really make it commercially viable, Larry would have to be like you would have had to reach critical mass. Also, it to reach critical mass, the Larry Stylinson story requires almost like an archivist's patience at reading, because if you're really into the Larry thing, you can pick up all the reference points and like the inner language and the blue green really quickly. But not everyone has that patience or that inclination. So it's too much work to bank on Larry baiting. I hope I'm making sense here, because I've thought about this and I'm like, honestly, I think if you were to look at the marketing categories of like the revenue streams, right? There's the Louis who just like Louis and they don't really care for the Larry thing. They're going to buy it anyway. They might maybe as annoyed as they might be at the references as, oh, it's some fruit conversation in metaphoric code. They'll be annoyed, but they'll still buy it. Then you've got the Larrys that are just going to buy it. Then you've got the people that are old One Direction fans who just never bought the Larry thing and they like Louis and they'll buy it anyway because they want to support all the boys. There's no strategic significant advantage. And like I said, people have to really almost sit down and look at like the color code key and the timing and all this and watch. Like, it's just too much work. I mean, people don't have very good, like, unless you're like a true believer and you're like a veteran Larry, or you're in it for life. You wouldn't have, most people don't have the patience for that. I really think he just likes the song Lemonade, and my personal theory is it's not baiting, because even if it was baiting all these years, eventually the bait becomes boring and it becomes contrived and it doesn't work. It can't. People catch on. Like it becomes obsolete, like a dinosaur, right? It's a tactic that doesn't work anymore. So I think that my personal opinion is that this is part of the ongoing little love story between these two cutie pies that are talking and coding. They know that the fans love it. They love the fan support. That's all this is.